Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the TweakTown Weekly Tech Podcast, number 24. My name is Chris Smith. As you would have seen, I've been on the last few tech podcasts, usually paired up with Anthony Greffer, but he's actually away at the moment, and I'm not quite as sexy as him, just by myself, but I'm going to try my hardest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover a bunch of tech news that's been happening lately. Obviously, as you guys would have been aware, unless you've been under a rock, is CES has been happening in Las Vegas. We've got a bunch of guys on the ground there, so that's why Anthony isn't available today. But we've got a bunch of us back home here as well writing. I'm writing here from Australia, a bunch of these articles. So what we'll do is we'll get straight into it, guys. So the first article I just want to cover quickly here is D-Link. They've unleashed some new routers, home automation and security at CES 2015, alongside the world's first gigabit Ethernet over power, featuring 2,000 megabits per second speeds. So I'm just opening up the article here on my screen. But the reason I kind of point out this Ethernet over power is I feel that it's pretty overlooked when it comes to, all your different kinds of, different Ethernet applications that come out. So like they've got this really cool router that you guys can have a look, and obviously I'll be linking all of these news articles in the description so you guys can have a look. But basically, they released a cool router that kind of looks like something out of Star Wars or maybe an upside down spider. But something really cool they've released here is their Ethernet over power. And the reason I think it's just really underappreciated is the fact that, imagine if, for example, you have a rental property. If you've got a rental property, you're not going to be able to jump up in the roof and start putting cables down through walls and, cutting holes in walls and things like that. And, it's really annoying to run your cables through your roof anyway to get in there under your floor, and running them on the upside of your floor, as in within your living space, is obviously quite annoying for the most part. So what they've done here is they've actually released the Ethernet over power. I used to use Ethernet over power when I still lived at home when I was about 17 years old. That was about 70 megasecond, and I could just stream off my NAS box a 1080p video or movie. But sometimes it would lag a little bit. And there were some issues like that. But basically what D-Link have done is they've released their Powerline AV2 2000 gigabit starter kit. And they're also their updated 1000 gigabit starter kit. And that obviously doesn't mean that it runs at 2000 gigabits per second. It does run at 2000 megabits per second, which is definitely a lot faster than the 70 meg that I used to use back in, say, 2008 or 9 or something like that, maybe 2010. But so this Ethernet over power device can send it through your home's power cabling. So there is obviously limitations with it. There are quite a few people who say that Ethernet over power is not going to work unless you plug it directly into the wall, which, some houses don't have that many power points in the wall, especially in Australia where I'm, for example. A lot of the rental properties, they might only have 2 power points for a bedroom. So if you're trying to run it from one bedroom to another, it's taking up half of the power points available in your bedroom. Crazy maths, I know. I can do maths. So the next article I have here, guys, is a big one, which is actually released by Anthony Greffer on the ground himself in Las Vegas at CES, which is ASUS have announced their Zenfone 2 launch. It comes with 4 gig of RAM and just $199. And we've got an update here right at the top as well, and because we've actually had a talk to ASUS ourselves after their keynote presentation. But basically, for $199 on a 2-year contract, you can get this phone for yourself, or for $399 outright. So this phone's pretty cheap, so I guess you're thinking, what's the catch? Well, having a look at the specifications just here, just opening up my little notes document quickly. It's got a 64-bit Intel Z 3580 processor running at 2.3 gigahertz, a 5.5-inch full HD IPS-based panel, a 13 megapixel rear camera, a 5 megapixel front camera, LTE Category 4 support, dual SIMs, fast charge, ASUS Zen UI, splashed over an Android 5.0 Lollipop Foundation operating system. So like I said, $199 on a 2-year contract, or $399 starting price, and that's in US, as it always is here at TweakTown. But that's an absolutely amazing price. I mean, it kind of really speaks for itself. Looking at through the photos here, the speeds are pretty damn fast. They've tried to upgrade their panels and things like that. But ASUS have really released a killer, and I think they're really trying to use this phone to bring it to people like Samsung and Apple. If you look in the past, ASUS have had things like their Pad phone and other things like that, and their Transformers, etc. But they haven't really pushed very hard, I feel, into the market. ASUS has some great products out there across, motherboards, graphics cards, they've got their peripherals coming out and stuff. You kind of think that ASUS is almost an everything brand. They do some great tablets, especially like the Nexus, which I own myself, the Nexus 7. But, what they're doing with this is I think they're just trying to throw themselves straight into the market and say, hey, Samsung, listen up. When you release things like your S4 brand new in Australia, for example, was over $1,000 in the stores. One of my friends bought one. She bought it a couple of weeks after release for $1,000. But releasing this kind of thing, 64-bit Intel processor with a 5.5-inch HD IPS screen, LTE, blah, 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 Android 5.0, etc. for $399 outright, $399. That's pretty damn good. I honestly don't think there's much more for me to say about that. So just on another note, guys, we've maybe about a quarter of the way through this at the moment. Feel free to ask some questions and stuff in here as well. If you are viewing live, we do have a couple of viewers, so feel free to have a bit of a chat, and we'll try to answer them as we go along, because there's been so much recently for CES. Here at TweakTown, we've been publishing somewhere between about 30 to 50 news articles a day, ranging on all of the different content that comes out. One of the ways I explained it to one of my friends who's not really into tech was, imagine every single enthusiast tech company in the world releases 4 products. That's how much is going on here at the moment. We're covering absolutely as much as we can at TweakTown, but if there's anything I miss here, or anything you think TweakTown have missed, feel free to let us know. We're happy to listen. We've got plenty of social media pages that you guys can contact us through, as well as you can chat live in here. So without further ado, the next thing on the agenda here is an article by our own Ben Gorley, who does a lot of our TV and media movie reviews, etc. He's written an article that Blu-ray format successor, the Blu-ray format successor, has officially been called Ultra HD Blu-ray. A little bit of an awkward name, I guess you could say. There's been a few comments on our social media as well about how the name's been a little bit awkward. I should have called it like double Blu-ray or Blu-ray HDD or HD or something like that. But Ultra HD Blu-ray is what it is, and to be honest, it really doesn't matter that much in the end, because I don't think it's going to affect your personal lives too much. But basically, a few days ago, we reported on the next iteration of Blu-ray, from the floor of CES, but now there's been some more information released. So we only just had the basics before, but what we've done is we've followed up, and now we've got it all for you. So basically, this is the 4K resolution version of Blu-ray, and it'll be running on the HEVC H.265 codec. The next generation. So that means that instead of a standard 50 gig, which we have currently, it will be 66 gig standard, with an option of a triple layer increasing up to 100 gig. So that means that films like The Hobbit and Avatar sequels and things like that will be able to fit on these ones properly. So there is actually a practical implementation, because I do know that Blu-ray, a lot of people didn't really get into the Blu-ray craze, and I guess maybe pirating has something to do with that. Because I know personally, my dad got a PS3 for free and kept that simply just for a Blu-ray player, but gave it to me because he didn't want to use it at all. He didn't see the need to use Blu-rays, and ended up getting a Blu-ray player for himself for free with a TV. And that's what it seems like, a lot of my friends got. They had a Blu-ray player simply because they got one for free, or they had a PS3. But what's really cool about this is that, like I said, I mentioned the Hobbit trilogy and Avatar sequels and stuff like that. So this new Blu-ray technology can support frame rates of up to 60 frames per second and other picture enhancements. So like 10-bit gradation and a high dynamic range and a wider color gamut. So this is looking to come out in about early 2016. So obviously the latest Hobbit can't quite be implemented immediately onto this, as it did come out on Boxing Day here in Australia. But yeah, it's definitely some pretty decent technology. Next up, we have Philips. So they've joined the curved display race. So this is an article that I actually wrote personally. So curved displays, if you haven't caught up with the hype lately, basically what it says is that the curved display is meant to fit, say, the natural curvature of your eyeballs, because obviously eyeballs aren't flat, they're a bit round. So what they say is when you stand right in front of a curved display, if I was sitting in front of one right now, it's meant to fit your natural curvature and not look weird. Obviously, normal screens right now do look normal because that's what we're used to. But, maybe curved is in the future. And maybe curved is the future, sorry, and this is exactly what we want to see. But basically, back to Philips, they've unveiled their 34-inch curved ultra-wide LCD display with multi-view technology at Quad HD 3440 by 1440 at a 12:9 aspect ratio. So this thing looks absolutely stunning. The press release that I covered this off looks like just rendered images. They don't look like proper images, obviously due to the coloring and stuff. And I've seen these pixels before, they're photoshopped memes, etc. But basically, it's the same marketing that these guys follow as well. It says here, it's said to help envelop users who seek a natural media viewing experience. So the screen offers you top-notch color accuracy, as you would come to expect. Like I said, ultra-wide Quad HD 4K resolution, a pair of 7-watt DTS stereo speakers, and also an extremely narrow bezel, especially along the sides there. It looks very good to just wrap up their overall sleek design. So Philips have actually produced something that looks really cool here. The base does look fairly big, but it is a very big monitor and obviously very wide. But judging by the pictures here and also the social media feedback on the TweakTown Facebook page, it's just been great. Some of these people have really been loving what's been pushed out here. So it's also got a 60 Hertz refresh rate, which is fairly standard but good to come with 4K. It's a IPS LCD panel and a 178-degree viewing angle. And also something's pretty cool about this, which I've actually written here, which I think is mostly overlooked, is the ability to use multi-view technology. So multi-view is actually you can connect 2 devices to display on the same monitor at any one time. So it's like split screen. Imagine split down straight through the middle. You're playing Mario Kart and 64 against your mates, getting ready to kill each other because it ruins friendships. You've got one person on one side, one on the other. So for example, imagine this was a monitor. What I could do is I could plug in, say, my desktop PC on this side, could have, say, my laptop on this side. I could have, say, me doing something here important like writing artists for TweakTown and my girlfriend doing something boring here like browsing Tumblr blogs, but you could be on the same screen, and things like that. It seems pretty cool, especially if you want to use the one monitor as well. Imagine if you wanted to have a laptop or have a Steam box or something like that wanted to play movies. You could play movies on half of your screen, and because this thing's so wide, it's a 12:9. Basically what you could do is it's like having 2 monitors in one. So imagine playing a game that doesn't, require too much attention, like doing your dailies in World of Warcraft or something like that on this side of the screen. And then this side of the screen here, you can be, watching your movies that you've put in through your fancy new Blu-ray or Blu-ray PC player because pirating is bad. So there's actually been no release date or price issued with this as well. But another cool thing that it has, it's got USB 3, and one of the USB 3 ports, there's 4 total, one of the USB 3 ports has 1.2 fast charging technology. So obviously Philips have just gone, guys, what can we throw into a monitor? Let's throw absolutely everything in there and let's just go absolutely all out and go as crazy as we can. And that's exactly what's happened here. So they've wanted no feature to be left behind. The thing was awesome, but really want to know the pricing, man, because, judging by what it looks like, the pricing is going to be pretty big, but it's definitely a good looking product. So just looking up examples here. Another interesting one is Kingston HyperX. They've working and released their new high-performance PCIe SSDs. So what I've written in this article actually is storage seems to be the flavor of the month. So CES, you have a bunch of your cases coming out. You've got graphics cards. You've got new Intel has Broadwell architecture, so coming out CPUs. You've got GPUs. You've got all this different stuff: cases, peripherals, power supplies, etc., etc. But what we've seen so much of this time, and what I reckon maybe even 30% is storage. There's been crazy amounts of storage. There's been, 400 megasecond USB 3 drives that are rugged and aluminium and can withstand between 5 to 15 Gs or something ridiculous like that. Not even Maverick from Top Gun can stand. There's been a whole bunch of SSDs, like Crucial have been releasing some. Seagate have been releasing their hard drives, like their world's first 3 terabyte 2.5-inch drive, and things like that. But covering this one, I've just tried to dumb it down, to maybe the most simple, but also definitely one of the most impressive is the Kingston HyperX here. So they've unleashed their thing called the Predator. It's out to attack. It's definitely should be called the Predator, and it's offering a 1,400 megabit a second read speed on a PCIe SSD. So this thing is pretty damn fast. Set for release in February. It's just been finalized and released. and it's going to be the highest end SSD with the fastest speed that Kingston HyperX has to offer. So they've already called it their champion product before release. It's being released in 240 and 480 gig iterations, which is definitely pretty good because, you know, these days, for example, if you want to use it as your main drive, for example, I've got a 120 Corsair Force 3 SATA 3 SSD, and it's just not quite enough, if you get what I mean. You know, I've got that on my data drive, and, you know, half of my Steam games are on one drive, half are on the other. But, you know, a 40 gig drive in this day and age should definitely be enough to you know, last your main games. You know, you can have, say, your World of Warcraft, you can do CSGO, your Dota 2, your League of Legends, your Windows, etc., you know, your Word installed, all that kind of stuff, just on your C drive with a bit of room to spare. And that's, you know, 480 is perfectly fine. You can have your data drives in there on. But what they've announced also is they're releasing a 960 gig version set for shipment later in Q1 or Q2. So it's not, you know, it's not too good, like as in it's not too set in stone. So it's got to be out before, you know, say the 6th month of this year, which is good. So what I'm trying to get at here, even though it's sounding a bit negative, is this 960 gig version is ridiculously massive. 960 gig for an SSD is awesome, especially if it's PCIe, and especially, like it says here, is a 1,400 meg read and a 1,000 meg write speeds. So obviously the PCIe ones as well, guys, if you're not aware, is they work much faster than their SATA sibling. So it's going to be crazy. Coming with a 3-year warranty, free technical support. The form factor M2 drives come with the optional half-height, half-length adapters as well, so they can fit in with old and new motherboards. There's no quoted retail price for this either, but expect it to be pretty damn expensive. But I can't wait until we test this out, especially when, you know, this kind of technology starts getting more mainstream. You know, can start reaching more of the mainstream market. You know, myself, for example, I play a lot of competitive games, so even though I do cover a lot of tech news, I don't necessarily have the latest tech within my computers. You know, I've still got a 570 graphics card, for example, because mainly I play CSGO, Dota 2, World of Warcraft, and stuff like that. So when I look at things like this, you know, straight away I'm not saying to myself, wow, you know, I got to run out, got to go straight to my store, got to go to Amazon, buy this thing for $2,000 on release, for example, and get it straight on my PC. What I'm thinking is, you know, imagine in 6 months, imagine in 8 months, imagine in 18 months, when this thing comes all the way down to normal consumer prices, how awesome it's going to be. Next story I have here is the Razer launch of the Forge TV. So it's an Android micro console, which is only costing $100 brand new. So Razer have just brought out this thing pretty damn cheap. So you might be thinking, what the hell is an Android Razer micro console? Too many words that don't necessarily go in the same sentence ever. So basically, this is a little console here that features an Android platform. Comes with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 885, a quad-core Crate 450 CPU, and Adreno 420 GPU, 2 gig of RAM, 16 gig of storage on Razer's new Forge TV platform. So basically, this Android-powered gaming console, it's going to be released at a price of $100, like I said, and it measures like 4x4 inches in size. So this thing's tiny. So it has Android gaming and Android-based entertainment services via Google Play, so you can play Angry Birds, etc., things like that. It's the easiest one to explain. And it's set for release sometime in Q1 2015. So we are actually in 2015 now, guys. I had to check really quickly because I'm still not used to saying the year. We're only 8 days into 2015 now. It must be CES time. So basically, just continuing on from exactly what this is. So you can use 4 simultaneous players to pair up and play through this system, which can connect to your internal network via wireless, Bluetooth 4.1, connect to your TV via HDMI, has a gigabit Ethernet capabilities. But what this does, besides act as, say, a phone kind of platform, so besides running on Android, being able to play Android-based games and, you know, use Android entertainment services and things like that, you can even control this thing using your iOS, Android, Chromebook, or Windows device. So you can actually use it like a remote. So if you're, you know, going through Google Play's entertainment services, watching music videos, you know, listening to music, doing that kind of stuff, you can actually use your phone device kind of as a remote. And I think what Razer have done here is they've tried to make this thing as cheap as possible at $100, just to throw straight into the market to get itself out there. They're selling a bunch of different accessories that we'll be covering a little bit later here on TweakTown as well, that'll be coming with the Razer Forge. So, I think maybe what they're trying to do is get the console out as cheap as possible, get into everybody's homes, because then, hey, you can sell this kind of extra, with it. But what the Razer Forge TV has also, which is what I briefly touched on, is the Razer's Cortex Stream, which is due out in spring 2015. And that's meant to focus on low latency and HD resolution services. So what it does is it helps cut down on the lag and random issues as seen with other streaming devices. And it's also publisher agnostic and works with DirectX 9 onwards. So what that does is you can rent things and you can play them from your device. The device doesn't have to have all of the computing capabilities. It comes down from the cloud. So obviously limitation with that is that you need a pretty fast internet connection. If you live in a peasantville like Australia, like I do, it's not going to work exactly too well for you, but it should be okay and you should go all right. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting advancement. Stay tuned, guys, because we will be covering a lot more on this. So guys, what we've done is we just wanted to cover just a little bit of the stuff quickly for you for CES. So once again, just a bit of a recap. So we covered D-Link. They're unleashing some really cool 2000 megabits per second Ethernet over power devices. We've covered ASUS's crazy Zenfone, which is $199 release with 4 GB of RAM, and that's with the contract, or $399 outright, and that comes with, like I said, a 64-bit Intel Z3580 processor at 2.3 gig, a 5.5-inch full IPS HD based panel, front camera, rear camera, LTE, dual SIM, fast charge, ASUS Zen UI over Android 5.0 Lollipop operating system, all that crazy stuff. We've had 4K versions of Blu-ray come out at 60 FPS for things like The Hobbit. Philips on the curved display race, having their 34-inch, amazing screen coming out. AMD with their FreeSync monitors as well. There's one thing I wanted to touch on really quickly. So basically, AMD have said they're ready to unleash the FreeSync in all shapes and sizes. So basically what we've had is we've had AMD come up with the FreeSync, NVIDIA come up with the G-Sync, new monitor technology. And what AMD's done is they've said, hey, everyone can have this for free. So it's basically open source. So you want to use it, you can use it. Whereas NVIDIA will be charging people to use their G-Sync technology. So what does that mean? That means cheaper monitors, because you don't have to factor for this cost into your monitor, manufacturing and sales, blah, 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 all that through that kind of stuff. So they've been displaying it here on 3 4K monitors, pushing their Eyefinity as well. 3 4K monitors looks absolutely amazing. But just having a quick read of what's happening here. So we can expect 1080p, 1440p, 4K, and ultra-wide monitors, which is a huge step up from the 1080p, 1440p, and 4K that NVIDIA offers with their various displays from Acer and ASUS. So AMD are going crazy with this. I think what they're trying to do is get this out as fast as possible, make it free to push their graphics cards, because it's definitely good for people. It's good news for people who own AMD Radeon architecture. And just one final thing that I wanted to follow up here with you guys, because what we're trying to do is keep these podcasts a little bit short. I know I'm beautiful, but you don't want to stare at me all the time. So what I'm doing here is Thermaltake makes an even bigger splash in water cooling at CES. So Anthony and Cam went along to our good mate Shannon Robb at TTUSA and took a look at some of the stuff that Thermaltake's doing, including their massive new core cases. But what they're trying to do here at Thermaltake is what they say is go back to basics. It even says it on Shannon's shirt. As we know, Thermaltake has done a lot of water cooling and things in the past, especially all the way back to their orb cooler right at the start. So what they're trying to do is go back to basics and focus on their water cooling again. So, things like the Water 3.0 they're releasing a whole massive range of, radiators all the way up to like 540mm radiators, which will fit in their new Core 9 case as well. So Thermaltake are really trying to go back to their basics with this stuff. So we suggest you guys check it out on tweaktown.com. But once again, guys, my name's Chris Smith. I can't be joined by Anthony Greffer for this 24 because he is trotting around the ground at CES Las Vegas. But guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. TweakTown weekly podcast number 24. Once again, my name is Chris Smith, and feel free to leave any comments on our Facebook page. But bye for now.